Welcome to... Oh, should I not have done that?
No, you're good.
All right. Welcome to Progressive Security. I'm your host, Chris Army. This is James May. We're here to talk about a few things today. I'm really glad you guys are with us. I want to thank our sponsor, Old People. No, sorry, if that was inappropriate. I hope it didn't offend anybody too much. We're really sponsored by Haley Joel Osment. Okay, so...
What's the subject, Chris?
Yeah, the subject, sorry. I had to get out my jokes right off the beginning until we have real sponsors. All right, so we're going to talk about the elections, but not the results. We're going to talk about the sturdiness of elections. In my opinion, the way elections are run in the United States, by the way, 100 million people voted in these midterms elections, a record. It's incredible. 100 million Americans.
So can we be upset about that then?
That's great.
Well,
I'm really happy about that.
About the results.
As long as people's voices are heard, that's what matters. That's what I want.
I just wanted to point that out. At least people voted, and
yeah,
I mean, there's some balance.
Yeah,
now.
If every single vote count was counted for everyone who was eligible, that's what I want. Even if the results aren't what I want, I just don't want there to be things like voter suppression or election tampering. And so that's a big part of what we're going to talk about too, from a global perspective. So before we started this, James was mentioning that a lot of people say. So what if the Russians and the Chinese have tampered in our elections? We do that in other places. And that is absolutely true. Absolutely. But
it's us.
We shouldn't do that either. Nobody should be doing that.
Agreed.
Totally.
That's the messed up part of it all.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But go on.
Nobody should. So I want to talk about these accusations getting thrown around about people voting illegally, the idea that votes are being created out of thin air. The president said that it's weird how as they count more votes, they seem to skew more Democrat. Well, there's actually a reason for that. So small counties generally vote more red. Those are easier votes to count because they're small counties. Big cities usually vote more blue. That's a lot more pressure on the system.
Holy cow. Fuck the internet.
That's all right. So mail-in ballots very often skew blue. Those often take longer to count. Cities often take longer to count. So, of course, as it goes on, the votes generally are more that way. There just isn't an issue in this country with people making up votes. And if it was, prosecute them. Launch investigations. But guess what? The president and multiple governors have launched investigations, ordered investigations into voting fraud. Nobody's come back with anything. Because guess what? If they did, it would be national news. It'd be international news because they would finally have found someone. Look, this person was faking votes for the Democrats. It's just not an issue.
That's my hard point. Hard point is who runs the media.
Well, so...
if their agenda is not being pushed, why do they want that news to be put out there?
Would Fox News air it, though?
If it was for their benefit.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If either side had evidence that either one was tampering, that's what they would go for. Now, with hacking, voting hacking, well, first of all, there were many accusations about voting machines changing votes in Georgia, Florida, and Texas. And did you know the creator of Diebold said that he wants Republicans to win before the 2000 election? That's true. That's something you can absolutely research. Why do we need voting machines? That's my big thing. If you've heard the stories about like 13-year-olds hacking into voting machines.
Oh, I've heard it's really easy.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, why are we making it so hard?
Yeah.
That's my question. Like I feel like there's an easier way here, and it's ridiculous, and this shouldn't even be a real question.
The way we run elections wouldn't be acceptable in a third world country, let alone in America. It's different in all these different states, even in different counties. You have people overseeing elections in Georgia. The candidate for governor was acting Secretary of State, which meant he oversaw the election. His own election, he was in charge of making sure that the votes were counted properly.
Regardless of what party that is, that's not cool.
He stepped down like a week or two before the election after everything had already been done. And in fact, in Georgia, they had thousands of voting machines left in warehouses when there were areas that had multi-hour
Oh, I heard about
waits.
that. That's ridiculous. The trucks, like the whole conspiracy about like, you heard about this, haven't you?
With trucks?
They like literally made votes go away.
Yeah.
There was a semi truck that dropped off like boxes into a pickup truck.
Ballots being left in post offices too. They're finding boxes of ballots in post offices.
Isn't that the question though, man?
Yeah.
The question's like, what do we do about it? Not being angry at the other side.
Yeah, this isn't Democrat or Republican. We should all want better elections, but I don't hear. Well, more one party I hear talking about solutions than the other. The other's more based in accusations. But so I just want to mention too, before we talk solutions, the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI have, among other agencies, have released reports officially in implicating Russian hackers and Chinese hackers to a much, much lesser extent, but mostly Russian hackers for 2016 election tampering. And in fact, the Mueller investigation indicted using grand juries and long investigations, Russians for interfering. Putin literally on video said, yes, I wanted Donald Trump to win, and we helped that. Also, I want to mention...
I haven't seen that. Everybody,
don't pull it up?
Let's not do it now.
Yeah, it'd be cool if we could put it on there.
But
in the future.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And that's nothing covered. That's not out there.
He said it 10 feet away from President Trump. When President Trump went on his Helsinki trip, they were 10 feet apart from each other. And he was like, he was asked about tampering. And he was like, absolutely. I wanted him to win.
Isn't that a badass? He didn't give no fucks. I'm just saying,
that's his power. Because then, when he does that, it controls other people's responses. They're like, oh, well, if he's just admitting it, it must not be a big deal. Right? That's powerful. That is.
You know what we need? Joe Rogan as president.
I
just had to throw it out there. He'd beat Putin's ass. He'd be like, oh, you don't agree with me?
Yeah.
Let's go into this other room.
Putin's really good at martial arts, right?
Yeah, but
have
you seen Joe Rogan's kicks?
Joe could beat him. Yeah. He just breaks bags. Sponsored by Joe Rogan Experience.
I love Joe. Anyways.
So, people have been indicted. There's long investigations, but let's just move past that. Let's talk about solutions, because whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or you name it,
that's all we want, right?
Unite people. We should all want better elections, right?
If we can't coexist, we won't exist in America.
Exactly.
And we're the best country ever.
Yeah.
And it might be arrogant, but if you don't believe it, we won't. I don't know. That's how we got this.
Yeah, I agree.
And I just had to say it.
No, I agree entirely. There's a few different ways, too, that we can... So, let's just move past the election tampering, let the FBI do their job, all that stuff. Let's talk about solutions that I think everybody on every part of this issue should be able to agree on. So, we should have federal voting guidelines. Everybody, this is my view, everybody when they turn 18, they should receive, and other countries do this, they receive a voting card in the mail, and it can have security measures that make sure you have this voting card, you're allowed to vote.
That's easy. We all have social security cards.
We do, and
it's easy to send them out. You know how old we are.
Yep. Exactly.
So that's an easy solution there.
You pay your taxes. Okay, we know you're a citizen. Cool. You have your voting card. It's all linked up. You get your voting card. paper ballots everywhere. In India, with a population of over 1 billion in India, the government made a rule. Nobody should have a polling station more than a mile away from them. In India.
You gotta say India's not the best country. Like,
they're great. I lived in India for 3 months.
I've had people from India tell me never to go there. That's a personal experience there.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's a good... I don't think that's a bad thing, but
yeah.
India's a different story. Like, if people are telling me, like, I'm just like, oh, I've always wanted to go there.
Yeah.
And they go, no, you don't.
Yeah.
It's a little sad.
Yeah.
But it's maybe they were living in a different side.
Well, probably. I mean, I could make some guesses. If I was going to bet, most of the people I meet from India are Punjabi. And they seem to immigrate here more often. That's also... Punjab is closer to Pakistan. And they have a lot of sectarian violence over there, especially between the Sikhs and the Muslims. I spent my time in India in Delhi.
It's sick that we get those mixed up.
Yeah, it's terrible. It really is, because they're very different.
I've had a Sikh friend.
Yeah.
Or
they're
Sikh,
great people.
Or whatever.
Yeah,
however
I think
you
it's
pronounce
okay
it.
Either way, different people. We have accents. You and I have accents, and so we pronounce
he
things
pronounced it Sikh.
Yeah.
So, but
I love India. My time there was really incredible. They have a lot of freedom. They have a very strong democracy. They make really intelligent decisions about how to run their country, and they're the fastest growing economy on earth. China fudges their numbers a lot, actually.
China's kind of evil. I mean,
kind of president for life. Yeah.
China's got their own issues. Like, we shouldn't be trying to be China.
Not at all. But India has a lot of very admirable traits. I have tremendous love for India. They're a very strong, vibrant democracy with an economy that's skyrocketing. They actually have a law there that when election time comes, polling stations aren't allowed to be more than a mile away from anyone. So they have people who live in the middle of the woods, and they have to bring a polling station to that person, essentially. And they have over 1 billion citizens.
I think that's pretty cool. I think we could do something similar.
Yeah.
I think that's a little extreme.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it should be easier where you just because where you live, you can't go vote. Because I had a situation living in Alaska. I was driving back to my polling station, and this is one of the reasons that I stopped voting.
Yeah.
Is I was driving, listening to the radio, and they announced who won the presidency.
Wow.
Why did my vote count?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Electoral College is a big part of all that. That's messed up, too.
Like, it hurt me.
Yeah.
Like, if you can tell, it hurt me.
Yeah, to feel like you didn't contribute to it.
And, like, I didn't matter.
We shouldn't waste votes.
And maybe that's our big problem.
Yeah.
Is the Electoral College.
I entirely agree. Well, in the argument, do you know the argument for the other side, pro-Electoral College?
What, a fucking 1860s argument? So,
the argument pro-Electoral College is... why should cities get to decide elections? And it's dumb, when there's the rest of the land. So basically what you have, when you have that mindset, is if you move from the countryside to a city, your vote suddenly becomes worth less. People in California's votes in the presidential election are worth about 30% of what someone in Wisconsin's vote is worth. Why should moving affect the power of your vote? That's ridiculous. If you live in a less populous area, your vote should count for more.
It's ridiculous. Well, it's primitive.
It is. Yeah.
Like, it made sense back when we didn't have all the technology. I couldn't set my fucking iPhone up here.
Yeah.
And record all this.
Yeah.
And people hear it.
Yeah.
Like, it's primitive. And I'm not saying the Founding Fathers were bad or...
It took weeks to transport election results across the country too. It was very difficult.
Why don't we update it?
Well, so that's what I want to talk about here too. I think there's a lot of people who benefit from the system not being updated, by it being messy, because it's easier to take advantage of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And each side just they go through it, and it's like
gerrymandering.
Yeah. Fuck that.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Absolutely. Shouldn't be allowed at all. In fact, in North Carolina, the Democrats and Republicans voted almost 50-50 total.
But because of it?
Because of gerrymandering, Republicans got 10 seats and Democrats got 3. That doesn't sound like the will of the voters, you know.
That doesn't sound like what the founding fathers wanted.
Not at all. Not at all. So,
and they did their best to put in a government that made sense for the time.
Yeah. Yeah, but they expected it to be updated also. They didn't expect it to be run the exact same forever. They knew that things change over time. That's why we're able to make amendments to the Constitution. In fact, Thomas Jefferson considered putting permanent sunset clauses on all laws. Now, I don't agree with that, but it shows you the mindset of the people who founded this country, that they wanted to say maybe all laws should expire every 10 years.
Reevaluate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we need to, at this point, reevaluate a lot.
Yeah, well, we need to change it, though, because that's the thing. So,
reevaluates change.
Yeah, absolutely. Make and implement. So on a federal level, every state. In fact, maybe even a constitutional amendment with the following things. So automatic voter registration when you turn 18. Easier access to voting. I think the states that do primarily mail-in ballots for voting, like Washington and Oregon, have a much easier time counting mail-in ballots.
What do you feel about an app?
Well, I love the idea. I just worry about...
It would be so easy, but it would be about who developed it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It would be open to bias, and the government messes up a lot, but then private corporations have a lot of preferences.
I mean, we've seen that. Like, regardless of how you feel about Alex Jones,
yeah,
we've seen that happen. A company had a bias, didn't feel that they wanted that on their network and promoting that, and they made a choice.
Yeah.
So it's all getting down to money.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know. I got to this point.
We should do an episode on deplatforming and people like Alex Jones getting kicked off of social media. That might be our next episode.
But would not just like a cap on how much money you can spend on an election do a lot of good for us?
The midterm elections, $5 billion was spent on them.
From who?
Corporations and the public. Just total.
Well,
they spent
where
$5
do you
billion
think
in budget.
The $5 billion mostly came from?
Rich people and corporations.
And
Definitely.
It's probably divided between both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, so the Democrats, the majority of them refused to take corporate money. They made pledges to do that, and you can actually look up online. There's multiple websites. Let's see.
Because if the people that did make those dedications should have won.
So I can't speak for every race. In Texas, Beto O'Rourke, who lost by 3 points in Texas, he raised $80 million, while Ted Cruz raised about $40 million. Ted Cruz took dark money. Beto O'Rourke didn't. He barely lost. It really was disappointing that he did. But
I think we just need campaign reform.
Yeah.
Like, there's only this amount that you get to spend. It's going to be equal. We need to have thoughts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, conversation, debate versus conversation. Yeah. We talked about this. Like, debate, there's a winner and a loser.
Yeah.
Conversation, people come out growing.
Yeah. You're open. We're searching for the truth more than winning.
Yeah, and that's what is so important to everybody at this point. And it's just getting frustrating to me, man.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, it is. And it's so how I would how I would outline it that I think practically all Americans would agree to, although I'm sure very powerful people would lobby against. So again, it's automatic voter registration, more access to mail-in ballots, random audits of voting systems where unbiased people.
I like that.
Yeah, unbiased people go around to
You
random
never
counties.
know.
Yeah,
It'd keep you honest.
absolutely it would. Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah, why we do that with our food? We're not going to do that with our votes. You know what I mean?
What's more, I mean, they're both important, but I mean,
Yeah.
the votes.
Plays a big role.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are some simple. And then again, with dark money, of course, you know. If actually, I think I've told you about this before, but in Seattle, they have freedom vouchers or democracy vouchers. Every citizen who can vote gets mailed a $50 check that can only be given to a political candidate. So it encourages those candidates to go door to door, and you can just write their name on the freedom voucher and hand it to them.
That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Very interesting.
Only like 5% of the freedom vouchers were used, but the rest of the money stays in there. So maybe next time you can, because people weren't using it, now you get $100 freedom voucher because only 5% were using it. And then the next time, only 5% again. All right, now you have a $500 freedom voucher because nobody else is using their freedom vouchers.
Well, at this, then I have to ask the final question here. Should everybody deserve a vote?
Everyone who pays taxes, I think. I think if you pay taxes, well, okay, every citizen who pays taxes.
By the way, real quick, I want to say I'm not saying everybody doesn't deserve. I'm asking a question,
Yeah.
and this has been brought up.
Yeah, no,
And this isn't something I believe. I just got to be careful.
it's a good question, totally. Actually, in Sweden, even non-citizens can vote. It's about residency with voting, which is really cool. But
I don't like that.
I don't
here.
either. No, in
Like-
America, if you're a citizen and you pay taxes,
You
here's
get a
your
vote.
Really fair, really simple.
But what about the idiots?
Although if you don't pay your taxes, I do that would probably be the only circumstance, and maybe not permanently, but yeah, if you don't pay your taxes, go fuck yourself. You know, maybe you don't get to weigh in on what happens to our budget.
But what about the idiots?
Oh, okay.
I'm playing devil's advocate here. Like, what about the idiots?
So-
Like the people that probably shouldn't deserve to vote.
So-
like not have
Yeah,
a solid thing and just voting left or right.
yeah. So I have a really strong opinion about that, about idiots voting. Well, voting isn't about the wisdom of the masses. It's not about us being informed. What voting is about in democracy, is creating an incentive for your politicians to please as many people as possible.
I like that.
Their goal is to just as many people, and sometimes that might not work because they'll be liars or whatever.
Yeah, no, say what needs to be said.
Yeah, but in a dictatorship or something, they only need to keep a few people happy. Basically, they're generals.
And the
banks.
people that are enforcing.
Exactly. They don't need to keep a lot of people happy. In a democracy, you need to keep at least the majority of people happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Like,
It's a good, yeah.
yeah,
it's valuable.
I played devil's advocate. You came back great. Like, I loved it. Like,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's
That's
true.
why everybody deserves a vote.
Because you want the keys to power. We turn the key when we go into the voting booth to say, we're going to open the door for you to lead.
And then also your intelligence doesn't determine if you get a say.
Yeah.
Everybody does.
Because you got to be taken care of, too. And also, I mean, a lot of these people who are less informed, they probably live in places with poorer education or have had life circumstances that didn't really
regardless
give
of
them it.
race.
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless of race, they didn't have maybe the same opportunities. And I have a lot of family in Pennsylvania who, I know their education system in the rural parts of Pennsylvania has suffered a lot, and they still deserve to get a key to open the door to power. Because
we're all equal.
Yeah, that's America.
If we can't coexist, we're not going to exist.
And that's part of campaign finance reform, too, because when you give those dollars, those are keys, too. Often, not always, candidates with more money
Maybe
can
there's
lose.
secret keys you find in Zelda.
Well, they affect things, though. And so,
Yeah.
you give a politician $1 million, they have more incentive to listen to what you want once they're elected. But at least we still have the keys. But we should, fix that, too.
Everybody deserves the vote.
Yeah.
I love that, dude.
Appreciate
but this was a really good episode.
I agree.
And I think we should cut it off here. Let us know what you think we should do about all the elections.
Yeah.
And maybe fixing it all. And hopefully we didn't go off the rails too much.
I think it was good. And if anyone watches this to the end, you see it on social media or YouTube, feel free to comment. We'll try and respond to some of that. If you send us a message and you're in Spokane, we'll get you some free tickets to some upcoming comedy or music. Why not, right? Are we cool with that, James?
Yeah, of course, man. Come listen to us to be funny instead of political. We'll see you next time.